I love sewing pretty dresses, but let's face it, when you're doing the school run in the middle of January and it's raining and it's cold, a viscose dress, no matter how you layer it up, just isn't going to cut it. I live in jeans and jumpers, sweatshirts during the winter, so I thought it was time to make a couple of new ones because the ones that I have definitely seen better days. Plus, Andy has been using this purple sweatshirting fabric as a blanket for the last 2 years, so I thought it was high time I made him a jumper too. So there are a few different types of fabric you can use for sweatshirts. The first is a sweatshirting fabric. These are usually fleecy backed or brushed on the back, so they're really warm and snuggly. They're quite heavyweight, but they are absolutely perfect. They do what they say on the tin. They are perfect for sweatshirts. You can get loads of different colours, different prints. This one is quite plain, but it's got this brushed back, so it is really, really snuggly. I am going to make a Jackson pullover with this one today. Fleece is a really lovely fabric for making sweatshirts. It's heavier weight than a sweatshirting fabric, meaning it's great for outerwear, jackets, pullovers that you might wear on a cold and crispy walk. There's a few different types of fleece. This is a polar fleece, which is probably the most common. It's lovely, warm, soft. It's got a brushed underside. You can also get Sherpa fleece, which kind of mimics the look of sheep's wool and is a bit heavier weight as well. So it's really great for jackets. The other one that's quite common is Minky fleece, which has those little raised dots. It's so soft and it's most commonly used as blankets, particularly baby blankets. This one is really, really snuggly. Before I continue, I want to talk to you about Thready Set Go, the new online sewing community hub where you can connect for free and join in and chat with other amazing sewists all over the world. There's a community forum where you can talk about all kinds of things related to sewing, and we've also just launched live online sewing social events, meaning you can share the joy of sewing with other people from all over the world in a small, friendly group from the comfort of your own home. Check out threadysetgo.com. It's completely free to join. I will see you in there. French terry fabric is a really lovely option for sweatshirts and jumpers. It's much lighter weight than a sweatshirt fabric, so it's not quite as snuggly and cozy as sweatshirting is, but it's a really lovely option. It's really soft on the outside, and then on the reverse, it's got a looped back. So it's sometimes called looped back jersey or French terry. Either or, it's the same fabric, and they are absolutely lovely for making sweatshirts, joggers that aren't quite so thick as sweatshirts, but still a really gorgeous option. Waffle cotton jersey is a really lovely, slightly less common type of jersey that you would use for sweatshirts. More typically, you would use a waffle cotton jersey for making bathrobes, towels, that kind of thing. But it is a really lovely option and it's becoming a bit more popular. It's called waffle cotton jersey because it has these raised threads creating this waffle-like texture. It's also sometimes known as honeycomb. I have made a Tilly and the Buttons Billy out of this and I absolutely love it. I wear it all the time. Ponte Roma maybe isn't the most common option for sewing sweatshirts because it is much lighter weight than a lot of sweatshirting fabrics, but it produces a really lovely garment. It's perfect for spring because it is a lighter weight fabric, so it's going to give you a slightly looser, slightly lighter weight. It's also a really great fabric if you are new to sewing with knits because it is very stable. It doesn't roll at the edges like a lot of other jerseys do. It has stretch going across the fabric, so it's a two-way stretch rather than a four-way stretch because there's no stretch along the length of the fabric. Again, you can get some really fabulous prints, loads of different colours. It's a great fabric to work with. Finally, we have what we would call a true knit fabric. This is a fabric that has been manufactured to look like traditional knitting. This one has a ribbed effect, but you might also see cable knit jersey. They are really, really lovely and come in a variety of weights and thicknesses. So they're great for cardigans, jumpers, pullovers. and sweatshirts. So snuggly, so cozy. I cannot wait to get this one sewn up today. Here are some tips for working with sweatshirt fabrics. Number one, pre-wash your fabric. Always, always pre-wash your fabric, but sweatshirting is particularly prone to shrinking, and that is something you do not want happening after you have made your garment. So please, please pre-wash your fabric. If your fabric has a pile or a nap to it, you need to make sure that all your pattern pieces are facing the same way when you come to cut it out. Naps or piles basically just mean that if you stroke your fabric one way, it will feel different if you stroke it the other way. This is particularly true on fabrics like velvet or corduroy and on some sweatshirting fabrics. This one doesn't have a pile or a nap, it feels exactly the same, and because it doesn't have a print, I can put the pattern pieces any which way I like. As long as it's on the straight grain, I'll be absolutely fine. If your fabric does have a pile or a nap, just make sure that all your pattern pieces are facing the same way so that the front feels the same as the back and feels the same as the sleeves. When sewing with any stretch fabric, you need to use a ballpoint needle or a stretch needle in your sewing machine. Ballpoint needles have a slightly rounded tip rather than a universal needle which has a pointed tip. The rounded tip means it separates the fibres in your fabric rather than piercing them, and that can help prevent snagging. Obviously, sweatshirt fabric has some stretch to it, so you are going to want to use either a stretch stitch on your sewing machine, or you can sew a sweatshirt up completely on your overlocker. I'm going to use a stretch stitch on my sewing machine. I'm going to use the regular zigzag stitch, and I'm going to use a narrow width 1.5 and then a slightly longer length. So I'm going to do 3 on the length. Because the sweatshirt fabric is a bit thicker than if I was sewing a regular cotton jersey or viscose, I want the length just to be a little bit longer. You don't have to use an overlocker when sewing with sweatshirt fabrics. It doesn't fray, but it can shed a little bit. So if you've got an overlocker, it's a really good idea to use one, or you can do a zigzag stitch within the seam allowance. With thick sweatshirting fabrics, you can see this was the first seam I did with the overlocker, and you can just see it's gone a bit wibbly wavy. All I did in order to get a nice straight, non-wibbly wavy seam was I turned the differential feed up a little bit. You can just go up a little bit, try it, go up a little bit more, try it again in order to get a nice flat seam. Am I using completely the wrong colour overlocker thread for this particular garment because it's the right one for this one? Yes, I am. Do I care? No, I don't. It's not going to be visible at all. The only time I'm probably going to change the sewing machine colour is when I come to top stitch the neckband on this one. Otherwise, I'm not going to be too worried about that. As sweatshirting fabric is so thick, you might need to consider grading your seams, especially because a lot of sweatshirts, you have neck bands, you have cuffs, sleeve cuffs, and you have hembands, which means there are usually 3 layers of thick fabric. This is the neckband all done, and as you can see, we've got a lot of extra fabric going on here in the seam allowance. So I'm just going to take a pair of scissors and I'm going to trim down that middle piece of fabric just to remove some of that bulk. Finally, when you're all finished with your project, make sure to give your sewing machine and your overlocker, if you've used it, a bit of a spruce up. Sweatshirting fabric can shred quite a lot, meaning your machines will be all full with little dusty bits of lint, so make sure to give it a good clean, setting yourself up right for your next project. Da 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 da! One new sweatshirt fabric, a Helen's Closet Donovan in this really lovely ribbed knit jersey that I picked up from First for Fabrics. I was hoping to make myself a second one out of that waffle cotton jersey that I showed you, but I didn't have as much as I actually thought I did. So it's one for me and one for Andy. I hope he likes it. He's often complaining that he's cold, but then not actually wearing a jumper. So maybe if I've made him one, he might actually wear it now. I absolutely love this. I have been inspired by Claudia Winkleman in the Traitors and all of her incredible knitwear. Oh my goodness, her outfits are incredible. Obviously, a lot of her jumpers and sweatshirts are traditional knitwear. This, I think, is a pretty close second. I'm really happy with it. I think some jewelry, maybe a red lip to dress it up, or obviously as it is super, super casual. So yeah, I'm really happy. Let me know in the comments which sweatshirt patterns you love to sew. Do you have a tried and true sweatshirt pattern? I will be back next with my top 5 sweatshirt/jumper patterns so you can have a look at maybe some different ideas. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all soon. Bye.